Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I am your host, and whether you have been shooting for 5 decades or 5 days, I am glad you are here. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night to the sound of breaking glass, reaching for your trusted defensive tool, and realizing you do not have the hand strength to rack the slide under stress. That is a nightmare scenario nobody should face, which is exactly why we are discussing the best revolvers for seniors today. Wheelguns offer a simplicity and reliability that modern semi-automatics still struggle to match, especially when fine motor skills diminish. Hit that subscribe button and join our community as we break down 8 exceptional options that prioritize ease of use, manageable recoil, and absolute dependability for those in their golden years. We start our list with a workhorse that proves you do not need to empty your retirement account to secure peace of mind. The Taurus Model 856 has quietly carved out a massive piece of the everyday carry market over the last few years, offering a compelling alternative to the standard 5-shot snub nose. Historically, Brazilian manufacturer Taurus built its reputation by creating accessible versions of classic American designs, often learning from the manufacturing processes of legendary companies. By the early 2000s, they began innovating on their own terms, leading to the development of small-frame revolvers that maximize capacity without adding significant bulk. The brilliant engineering choice here was expanding the cylinder just enough to fit 6 rounds of 3/8 special instead of the traditional 5, while keeping the overall footprint perfectly sized for a pocket or bedside table. For an older shooter, that extra round represents a 20% increase in defensive capability without the complexity of a magazine change. The double-action trigger pull is surprisingly smooth for a budget firearm, though it can be slightly heavy out of the box. That heft is easily mitigated by having a qualified gunsmith polish the internals, a common and inexpensive upgrade. It earns its place on this list because it fundamentally solves the capacity anxiety many feel when transitioning away from modern pistols. You get a matte black or stainless finish that resists corrosion, and rubber grips that absorb recoil effectively. While the sights are rudimentary fixed channels, they are completely snag-free. As of May 2026, the manufacturer's suggested retail price sits at $379, but you can consistently find it at your local gun shop for around $320. Aircraft-grade aluminum is not just for airplanes anymore, and this next firearm uses it to brilliant effect. The Charter Arms Undercover Lite sheds unnecessary weight to deliver a package that almost vanishes when carried. Back in the 1960s, founder Douglas McClanahan set out to build a stronger, safer, and more reliable revolver than the mainstays of the era. He achieved this by inventing a solid frame design with no side plate, a revolutionary step that made his firearms incredibly tough, despite their diminutive size. The Undercover Lite continues that proud tradition by utilizing a space-age aluminum frame that brings the unloaded weight down to an astonishing 12 ounces. When arthritis or joint pain makes holding a heavy steel block uncomfortable, shedding those ounces translates directly into longer, more productive practice sessions at the range. The mechanical simplicity here is a massive advantage, utilizing a traditional exposed hammer that allows the user to manually cock the firearm for a crisp, effortless single-action shot if distance requires it. It earns its rank by specifically addressing the physical limitations of aging hands without sacrificing stopping power. One minor drawback is that the extremely lightweight makes standard pressure 3/8 special ammunition feel quite snappy, which can cause flinching. However, loading it with low recoil defensive wad cutters completely tames the beast, turning it into a gentle shooter. You are looking at a manufacturer's suggested retail price of $442. While current street prices generally hover around $380. Durability has a name, and it is spelled out in solid stainless steel. Built like an absolute bank vault, the Ruger SP101 is the heavyweight champion of the small-frame wheelgun world. Introduced in 1989, this model was over-engineered from the start to handle a steady diet of full-power magnum loads without rattling itself to pieces. Bill Ruger wanted a concealed carry piece that possessed the same indestructible qualities as his larger hunting revolvers, and his engineers delivered a masterpiece of investment casting. For the older demographic, That dense steel construction is actually its greatest asset. Weighing in at 26 ounces, it uses mass to absorb the punishing rearward energy of firing, meaning the gun takes the beating instead of your wrists and elbows. The rubber grip features synthetic or wood inserts that fill the palm beautifully, further insulating the shooter from shock. The trigger mechanism removes completely from the bottom of the frame as a single unit, making maintenance and cleaning incredibly straightforward, even if your vision or dexterity is not what it used to be. It lands in this spot because it offers the softest shooting experience of any short-barreled defensive revolver on the market today. The trade-off is naturally the weight, which makes it less ideal for pocket carry and requires a sturdy belt and holster setup. If you plan to keep it in a nightstand or an automobile console, that weight becomes entirely irrelevant. The suggested retail price is $919, though the actual market price in stores right now is closer to $750. There is a certain magic in the way a premium trigger feels, and our next selection delivers a masterclass in mechanical smoothness. The Colt King Cobra carry resurrects a legendary nameplate and attaches it to a thoroughly modernized defensive tool. The original snake guns of the 20th century established a standard of American craftsmanship that many thought was lost to history after Colt paused double-action revolver production. When they re-entered the market recently, they brought back the iconic leaf spring action that makes their triggers feel like they are gliding on oiled glass. That buttery smooth pull is the exact reason this firearm is phenomenal when considering revolvers for seniors. A heavy, gritty trigger can pull the muzzle off target, especially for someone with diminished grip strength, but the linear, consistent pull of this Colt requires significantly less brute force to operate smoothly under stress. It pairs that magnificent action with a heavy-duty stainless steel frame and a 2-inch barrel, housing 6 rounds of .357 Magnum. It earns this high position because, out of the box, it requires zero modifications to be the perfect defensive tool for an older shooter who appreciates fine engineering. The only real negative is the premium cost associated with the rampant Colt logo, which might stretch a fixed income budget. Yet, considering it will outlast the person who buys it, the investment is easily justified by the quality of the internal components. The manufacturer's suggested retail price is $899, and you will typically pay exactly that, as these rarely drop below $870 on the street. At number 4, we have the undisputed king of pocket carry. The Smith & Wesson Model 642 is the quintessential enclosed hammer revolver, designed explicitly to be drawn from deep concealment without snagging on clothing. The history of this design traces back to the 1950s with the introduction of the Centennial line, which was created to celebrate the company reaching its 100th anniversary. The engineers realized that an exposed hammer spur was a liability in a life-or-death struggle, as it could catch on a pocket lining or be obstructed by an attacker in a close-quarters grapple. By completely enclosing the firing mechanism inside the aluminum alloy frame, they created a sleek, teardrop shape that slides out of a jacket or purse effortlessly. For someone prioritizing absolute simplicity, this firearm presents a point-and-shoot interface with zero external controls to fumble with during an adrenaline dump. It weighs a mere 14.4 ounces and utilizes a stainless steel cylinder to provide 5 rounds of .38 special protection. It secures this spot because it has arguably saved more lives in civilian hands than any other modern compact revolver, offering foolproof operation when fine motor skills fail. The heavy double-action only trigger is its primary weakness, requiring dedicated practice to master dry firing at home. Fortunately, installing a lighter set of aftermarket springs is a quick fix that transforms the entire shooting experience. The suggested retail price is $539, with real-world retail pricing, sitting comfortably at $450. For those of you watching on the big screen in your living room, grab your smartphone right now, scroll down, and let me know in the comments which of these you would trust on your nightstand. Stepping into the premium tier of our list, we find a relatively new contender that completely disrupted the compact wheelgun market. The Kimber K6S is a masterclass in ergonomic design and space efficiency. Kimber was historically known exclusively for their high-end 1911 pistols, so the industry was genuinely shocked when they unveiled a revolver a few years ago. They did not just copy existing designs, but instead reverse-engineered the concealed carry revolver to find every wasted millimeter of space. The result is the smallest cylinder capable of holding 6 rounds of .357 Magnum in the world. What makes this a spectacular choice for older shooters is the extraordinary attention paid to the grip frame and the trigger geometry. The factory rubber grips are slightly wider at the palm swell, distributing the recoil impulse across the entire hand rather than focusing it on the web of the thumb, which is a godsend for anyone dealing with joint pain. Furthermore, the non-stacking match-grade trigger breaks cleanly at around 9.5 pounds, which is remarkably light for a factory double action. It claims the number 3 spot because it perfectly bridges the gap between the easy carrying weight of an aluminum gun and the comfortable shooting dynamics of a heavy steel gun. It tips the scales at 23 ounces, striking an ideal balance for daily carry. The primary downside is that the internal tolerances are incredibly tight, meaning it requires regular cleaning to ensure reliable cylinder rotation, as unburned powder can cause friction. As long as you maintain it, it will never let you down. As of May 2026, the manufacturer's suggested retail price is $985, and you can expect to pay around $920 at the counter. Innovation often comes from looking at an old problem through a completely new lens, which perfectly describes our runner-up. The Ruger LCR, or Lightweight Compact Revolver, fundamentally changed how the industry viewed revolver construction by incorporating advanced polymers. Introduced in 2009, Ruger utilized their extensive experience in polymer molding to create a fire control housing that drastically reduced weight while actually increasing structural integrity. The barrel sleeve and cylinder are crafted from high-strength steel, while the aerospace-grade aluminum frame ties everything together. The true stroke of genius, and the reason it is perfect for our demographic, lies hidden inside that polymer grip housing. Ruger designed a friction-reducing cam system for the trigger, which creates a mechanical advantage as you pull it rearward. Instead of the trigger feeling heavier right before the shot breaks, the cam causes the pull weight to feel uniform and incredibly light. If you have ever struggled to pull a heavy trigger without shaking, this patented system completely eliminates that hurdle. It earns the second highest rank on our list because it represents the most significant technological leap in small revolver design in half a century, offering the easiest out-of-the-box trigger pull available. The primary critique is its unconventional, somewhat futuristic appearance, which traditionalists often find unappealing compared to classic blued steel and walnut. Aesthetics do not stop threats, and its performance is undeniable. The manufacturer's suggested retail price is $739, with current market prices readily available around $580. At number 1, we have a firearm that feels like it was custom built specifically for this exact conversation. The Smith & Wesson 432 Ultimate Carry in .32 H&R Magnum is the absolute pinnacle of defensive wheelgun evolution for those seeking maximum capability with minimum physical strain. For decades, the industry completely ignored the .32 caliber family, treating it as an obsolete relic of the early 20th century. Police officers in the 1920s frequently carried .32 caliber revolvers because they offered excellent penetration with virtually non-existent recoil. Recently, elite firearms trainers pushed Smith & Wesson to revive this chambering, realizing it solves the exact problems modern concealed carriers face. The Ultimate Carry Edition, developed in collaboration with Lipsys, takes the lightweight aluminum J-frame and optimizes every single component. Because the .32 cartridges are smaller in diameter, the cylinder comfortably holds 6 rounds instead of the standard 5 found in .38 special models. This caliber is the secret weapon for anyone analyzing revolvers for seniors, as .32 H&R Magnum delivers ballistic performance nearly identical to standard .38 special, but with less than half the felt recoil. You can practice all afternoon without a hint of wrist fatigue. Furthermore, this specific model features an aggressively modified trigger geometry, utilizing specialized springs that make the double-action pull light, crisp, and incredibly easy to stage. It takes the top spot because it requires zero compromises, delivering high capacity, extreme lightweight, a zero snag profile, and a zero recoil penalty. The sights are phenomenal, man. Featuring a high visibility standard dot front sight that is incredibly easy for aging eyes to pick up instantly, paired with a genuine dovetailed rear sight instead of a simple trench. The only negative is the availability of ammunition. 3.2H and R Magnum can be difficult to find at big box sporting goods stores, requiring you to order your practice and defensive rounds online. Given the massive benefits of the platform, keeping a supply shipped to your door is a minor inconvenience. At this moment in May 2026, the suggested retail price is $759, and due to massive demand, you will likely pay the full $750 on the open market. Finding the right defensive tool is not about ego or chasing the latest tactical trends. It is about finding a reliable partner that works with your physical reality. These revolvers for seniors prove that you can maintain your safety and independence with engineering that prioritizes comfort, simplicity, and absolute dependability. Stay safe, stay informed, and I will see you in the next one. This is Gun Tactician, signing off. Which of these outstanding wheel guns would you trust the most to protect your home? Or did we leave your favorite off the list entirely? Let me know down in the comments, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to help us keep bringing you the best firearms content on the web.